Hi! I've been away for a while, perhaps you noticed, or maybe you didn't notice. There were reasons. Where am I supposed to look? Hi. Oh God, I don't know where to begin. The last several months have been a journey. And forgive me if I ramble in this video. I'm not exactly sure where this is going. And a lot of this has to do with timeline manipulation. And it's funny because before I get into that, I have to reconcile with being taken seriously lately. And that's something really weird for me and uncomfortable because I've gone my entire life either being scapegoated or gaslit by members of my family, my peer group, people who should have been there to support me emotionally and help me grow into a healthy human being were mostly just out for themselves and operating from fear and a need to be right. And I grew up with a bunch of people jockeying for position who were incredibly competitive and insecure and were incredibly wounded in their own right. Their inner child was not tended to very much at all. And as a result, they developed a lot of narcissistic traits or were just void emotionally. I've talked about this a little bit. I don't want to expose myself any more than I already have. I don't feel a need to make videos all the time. I want to be with my tribe now. This is what I've discovered in the last several months. It's mostly been in isolation. The DNA activations were successful somewhat, but what I didn't talk about after my last video was how exhausting it was because I was overwhelmed by people who came to me who were not well. They had personality disorders or addictions or both, mood disorders, the usual. But it was just, see, it wasn't very successful in that regard. And that was really depressing. And I got overwhelmed and I think I got burned out. And I had to stop my practice for a couple of months because it was just so overwhelming. And what I realized was this push to help some of these people who were pulling on me the most energetically isn't that they weren't necessarily the most psychic, although my coaching clients are superstars and they're doing amazing right now. They're doing so amazingly well. And that's fantastic. But the people who came to me just for the DNA activation, some of them missed the point. Some of them did not get what a DNA activation is for. It's there to help you sort things out. And maybe these videos help me sort things out. I don't know, but really I'm just making them for one person at this point. Or a collective of people at this point who I would identify with and want to hang out with in person. And it's not really for building my brand or building business, although that's very nice. That's a nice byproduct. But I already feel isolated, and then I get people who come to me who are not taking responsibility for themselves emotionally, physically, intellectually, psychologically, mentally, etc. And they think that the DNA activation is supposed to be this magic cure-all and turn them into superheroes. And for some people who are ready for it, yeah, it might actually be the jump start for them to turn into superheroes. But for the most part, if you are not ready to look at your childhood family of origin, trauma, abuse, neglect, not getting your needs met, why do you think a DNA activation is going to fix everything? All it can do is help you as far as you're ready to meet the solution. And if you just want to come to me to be told that you're special and that you're the golden one and that you're chosen, and you get that kind of attention, that's not my purpose. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is not to be told you're the chosen one. And what I attracted recently, and some of it is well-intentioned and some of it was misunderstood. But what I attracted was some people who are very impressionable. And I have to be extremely careful with my words because they're either really emotionally fragile, some of them weren't, they're just impressionable. And I became profoundly aware that I was, first of all, being taken seriously for the first time. Media is a funny thing. When you have an interface with the public primarily through videos, it's a false sense of intimacy. And you can relay messages, and you can communicate ideas, and you can make people feel feelings, but you aren't really friends with them. It's an illusion. You're just sending out a message in a bottle, just like the song on YouTube, and you're trying to find people like you in some respects who can identify with what you're going through, and maybe they'll befriend you and maybe they won't. But people misunderstand this medium as being the reality, and some of them even substitute it for real relationships. And you can't have a real intimacy with someone who you keep at arm's length. And for some, that's a very good reason. And for others, it's like the self-preservation thing that's in overdrive, like a hypervigilance. And they just want to use me for an information source. And I can't prove anything I'm saying. It just has to resonate with you emotionally. But it really freaked me out. And there were some incidents that happened over the last 6 months or so that made me aware of how seriously my words were being taken. And that was scary as fuck. That was scary as fuck. This is how I know I'm not made to be a cult leader. It's scary to be looked at as an icon. And it's weird because I'm surfacing after several months and I'm like doing this stuff that's increasingly going inward. And the last several months were like, it was like the Hermit card and the Tarot deck. I just went inward and I was trying to make sense of all of this. And it was very difficult. And then the supermoon happened. And then the election happened. Or no, maybe it was the election happened and then the supermoon. I can't remember. But one of the two things happened. And it was just like, I have to talk about the timeline manipulation in that regard. And partly that had to do with some people. I have to choose my words so carefully now. And that sucks. It's being a public figure kind of thing. It feels like you're a politician or something, which is not what I want to be. I don't want to persuade people of my experience. I'm not here to persuade and manipulate. I don't like the idea of, you know, people are illogical creatures and really you just have to appeal to their subconscious desires in order to get a message across. That just depresses the hell out of me. It's so depressing to have to appeal to your subconscious needs and wants to get the point across. I'm American and I was raised to just like say what I feel and say what I need. And it's really weird to interface with people who are from different cultures who don't have that. And they don't get that you have to be stealth and sly and manipulative and I don't know. Like I've said before, manipulation is not necessarily a bad thing, but it just pisses me off. I don't like that I have to appeal to your basest instinct or your desires to get a point across. And even then people aren't listening. They want to talk about my hairstyle and how I wear it and like what I look like, and it feels like objectifying. It's like, if I'm going to be objectified, I want the person or persons that I'm involved with to to objectify me in a loving way that they understand the boundaries of, and that they, like, I don't want a ton of strangers to be like, you know, I don't need everyone to love me. That's not what this medium is for. This is why I don't need to make a video every day. But I do want some people to love me. I want some people to love me, but I want to meet them in person. I want to meet those, especially one person in particular who means a lot to me. And I know he wants to meet me, and it sucks. Like, why don't you just come and meet me then in person, privately, instead of a fucking video? Like, why do we have to have this interface through a video? It's stupid. Why can't we just meet in person? But anyway, like, I don't need 10,000 people to love me. I don't need that. I don't need I don't need a ton of people to validate me. I just need to know that I'm not going crazy. And I need to be okay with being taken seriously, which is funny because I'm going to get into the woo-woo in a second, but this whole last several months was really disheartening for me for the most part. Like, I had this big surge of positivity at the beginning, and then, I'm going to be honest with you, it was really depressing. Like, I fell into a really hard funk, and then the election happened, and this had to do with, I think, timelines being constructed artificially. And I feel like I'm living in a false timeline. Like, I feel like possibly somebody I want to meet, I don't know, did something to alter my reality, and God knows how many. But it's weird because for once, something that's really popular on the internet right now is mirroring my experience, and I completely identify with it, and they're calling it the Mandela Effect. And I'll get into that. I'm gonna have to do a part 2, I guess. But yeah, a lot of the last several months has been really grappling with, it's not even a fear of success, it's just the profound realization that there are serious people taking me seriously. And that's scary, believe it or not, because I've just been treated like a goofball my whole life. I haven't been treated seriously. There's been a lot of sexism. There's been a lot of undermining. There's been a lot of jealousy that really freaked me out. That was really weird to be the recipient of jealousy for the first, like, nobody just thought much of me except maybe my mom, but then she would kind of undermine my goals as well by being married to a person who practically made it his mission to undermine me and verbally abuse me for decades, you know, my stepfather, and then just having a narcissist biological father, that was really traumatizing. And then having an abusive sibling who just used me as a punching bag for years. I mean, it's just weird to be taken seriously. Anyway, I'm going to do a part 2. I don't know how to stop this thing.